Welcome in everyone to episode 134 of the Batflip podcast. My name is Damon, here with Matt and David. Today we're going to look back at our preseason predictions and some teams that are surprising us and some teams that are disappointing. We're going to go over our midseason awards. Before we get to all of that, David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. My baseball team not doing so good, but I'm doing great. Going on vacation this weekend, really excited. Hitting DC. Hopefully, we're gonna hit Nats Park, see a Nationals game, so that'll be good to get out of the standard comfort zone and check out another team, another ballpark. But see the nation's capital, all that. I'm excited about that. I'm not excited about the Cubs right now, but rest assured, there's more baseball going on. There's a lot of trade deadline talk coming up among other things. We're gonna get into that. Stay tuned. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. I actually mentioned going to the ballpark. I went to my first game of the year on Saturday. I went to watch the Braves play the White Sox, and it was not a great game for the Braves. They ended up losing 6-5, but I got to see Acuna hit 2 home runs, and I got to see Strider pitch, which he didn't have a great outing, but his stuff looked incredible. He hit 101 with the fastball, which is, I think, the highest he's thrown this year, which is awesome, but got some dink and dunk hits on him, and some bad play by the left fielder too that didn't help, but yeah, it's been a good week. That was exciting to get to go to the ballpark and have that was fun, and yeah, that's pretty much it. How are you doing, Avian?
I am doing all right, just trying to bear the heat wave that we finally got in California this week. It's been I think the lowest day we've had is like 106 in the past week or so, and it doesn't look encouraging going forward. So just trying to bear that, but been watching some baseball. The Dodgers were in New York against the Mets, so they were dealing with some rain, but good weekend series for them. And excited to jump in and see how wrong we really were with some of these division predictions. But we'll go ahead and start with the awards. Looking ahead at our first rookie, or the best rookie that we have. Who do you guys have? And we'll start with Matt in the AL for your best rookie.
Yeah, so in the AL for my best rookie, I was kind of split, and I think one of y'all might have picked the other guy. Yeah, David picked the other guy I was looking at, so I'll let him talk about him. But the guy I picked was Josh Jung. Coming into the season, he was a guy that I think when we did our breakdowns in the offseason, I said that he was the guy I was worried about on the Rangers, just because of his profile for the last couple of years. The minor leagues dealt with a lot of injuries. He last year he came up for a cup of coffee in the big leagues and was really, really bad. Didn't have a great AAA season last year either. In 23 games at AAA, he struck out a ton, never walked. That's part of his, downfall this year. At times has been the plate discipline, but he's hit for a lot of power, 19 home runs. He's hit 275 with a 324 on base, but a 492 slugging. That's a 124 WRC plus, and he's played really, really good defense at third base as well. So Josh Jung put up 2.6 WAR in the first half in 92 games. Really, really solid rookie season for him. And we'll see if he can continue it on. But he's going to be my pick for the AL rookie.
Yeah, so I went with Matt's other option there. Went with Luke Raley, who's a 28-year-old first baseman and outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays, and he's a bit of an unsung hero with that organization. They've had a really good group of guys come in and perform well to get the Rays to 60 wins at this point in the season. And Luke Raley's a big part of it. He's hitting the ball really hard. Got, just all red dots on StatCast. Got a 160 WRC plus, 15 home runs, 11 stolen bases. Like, he's just out there playing a really good brand of baseball that is mostly a strong side platoon. Right, he gets a few games against lefties, but for the most part, he's a righty masher, and the splits kind of back that up. But at the same time, that isn't really deterring him from performing at a really high level right now, and kind of being the corner outfielder and first baseman when Yandy Diaz went down that Tampa Bay has needed. He's just been really good, and I think that. When you've got a guy who's kind of come out of nowhere to an extent and be someone who's not really a prospect, he's been a bit of a journeyman. He's been in the Dodgers organization, been in the Twins organization, But, it's with the Rays, of course, that he finds success and is able to make those changes to, get that exit velocity up, get those home runs. His strikeout rate's concerning going forward, but this is an award about going forward, right? This is an award about what he's done. And all he's done is put up 3 wins above replacement, a 160 WRC plus, and generally been one of the best rookies in the AL. Who's your best rookie, Damian?
So for mine, I went with Masataka Yoshida. David and I were kind of having a conversation about this a little earlier today, but when Yoshida got this contract, what was it, 5 years for $90 million? Everyone said that it was a big, gigantic overpay. They wouldn't have even given him half of this contract. He was supposed to be a guy who didn't have much power, but was going to be a good, average guy. Well, he's came in this year and he's batting .316 with 11 homers. He's slugging almost 500 this year. 138 WRC plus, been really well, like 50 RBIs, 51 runs. Like, he's just been a big catalyst for that Boston Red Sox offense, even though they haven't been a great team overall. Yoshida is exceeding expectations for what everyone had projected for him to come over from Japan. And it's been really, really cool to see. And so I picked him as my rookie for the American League this year. But for the NL, we are pretty much all in agreement here, and I think it's an easy case. But you guys go ahead and just talk about what Corbin Carroll means, the NL rookie.
Yeah, well, I'm watching him right now because they're playing against the Braves, and he's good. He just his numbers are incredible. Like, coming up straight out of the minors, or I guess he had 32 games last year, but he's hit 284 with a 359 on base and a 534 slugging, 139 WRC plus, go along with 26 stolen bases, and 3.6 WAR in his first 89 games of his rookie season, which I know last year he had the short cup of coffee in the big leagues, but he's been really, really, really good. The defense has been really solid. It's been league average. He's playing a lot of left field, so they'll dock him on his WAR a tiny bit with the positional adjustment, but he's been really really, really impressive, and there's still probably room for growth with him too. He's a really good player already, so we'll see what he's able to continue going forward. He's fun to watch for sure.
So, I look back, since we're about to kind of look back at our predictions for all the teams and just see how that's kind of shaping up in terms of, current standings. I also looked back at our awards picks, and everybody had Corbin Carroll for NL Rookie of the Year. I didn't, because I just wanted to pick differently, and my picks are not performing well, right? Corbin Carroll's going to run away with Rookie of the Year. But what I did have was Corbin Carroll as a dark horse MVP candidate. And I said it's because if Corbin Carroll performs well, gets a lot of stolen bases, he's going to look like an MVP caliber player. And he is out here looking like an MVP caliber player. Now, we're going to get to best hitter, right? It's not going to be Corbin Carroll for all of us, because I think we could realistically throw him into the mix for that, and that's how good he's been, right? A 140 WRC plus in left field with good defense, 26 stolen bases, on pace for 50 or so stolen bases, and almost 40 home runs, right? That is a monstrous season, early Bonzian essentially, and they're very different players, but at the same time, right? Corbin Carroll is a massive impact, and he's a big part of why the Arizona Diamondbacks are in the race for the NL Central right now. I think they're 2.5 games back, so that's just absolutely absurd. But it's also absurd that he could be very well not only just be the Rookie of the Year, but also an MVP candidate at the end of the season, unless something were to happen to some of the front runners we'll talk about later.
Yeah, he has been utterly insane. And like you mentioned, he's been a catalyst for that Diamondbacks team this year to really surprise in the NL West. I think right now they're technically third behind the Giants. They've had a rough stretch recently, but
the Diamondbacks need some pitching.
Yeah. And they should go sign Madison Bumgarner, right? You mentioned Corbin Carroll. We knew the talent that he had, that he could be an MVP caliber player, and we could easily throw him into that conversation when we're talking about later the best hitter. But for him to be doing what he's doing, it's not really a surprise, but it's good to see. So let's go ahead and jump over to our American League pitchers. So Matt, who do you have for your best pitcher in the American League?
So my best pitcher in the American League is a guy who's been a very, very unsung guy the last couple years for being one of the best pitchers in baseball, and that would be Framber Valdez. He has just been incredible for I think it's going on really 3 years now. I mean, he's had 4 good years. 2020, he pitched 70 innings in the short season and had his peripherals all under 3, but his ERA was a little bit higher. 2021, 3.14 ERA. 2022, 2.82 ERA. This year, it's better, 2.76 ERA. His peripherals are back that up. He's pitched 117 innings. His strikeout rate is up a lot and his walk rate is down a lot, and he's still getting grounders at maybe not the same rate as he has been the last few years, but still 55% ground ball rate. Gets the ball on the ground, doesn't get hit hard, strikes a lot of guys out, doesn't walk anybody. That sounds like a pretty dang good pitcher to me, and he's durable. Last year he threw 200 innings. This year he's on pace to do the same. So um, he's very, very, very good. It seems to be very sustainable what he's done, and I think he's my pick right now for the best pitcher in the American League.
Yeah, so I went a different route, and Kevin Gossman signed a 5-year deal 2 years ago, right? And I think we're not appreciating what he's done over in Toronto over the last year and a half. He's put up 9.7 wins above replacement in a year and a half. That's 31 starts last season, 19 starts this season. 2.38 FIP last year, 2.45 FIP this year. The ERA is even lower this year than it was last year. It's 3.03 this year. He's striking out more batters. He's walking a few more, but for what Kevin Gausman brings with, really solid velocity, 93 to 95, and then that hammer splitter, along with a good slider that gets guys out. I just really love that a pitcher, we saw get big money in the same tier as Robbie Ray, who was the defending Cy Young winner, right? And he'd kind of been a journeyman pitcher, been to a bunch of different teams. You'll use him in your immaculate grid for Baltimore and the Giants, right? But Kevin Gausman is the type of pitcher that I don't think is getting thought about as an ace level pitcher, but he has been the best pitcher on the Toronto Blue Jays. He's been one of, if not the best pitcher in the American League this season. And he was exactly that last year, right? And that's where I'm very, adamant that this is maybe the best pitcher right now, is because he's been doing it for over a year, and we need to recognize him a little bit more. Damien, who you got?
So my pick, I went a little bit more obscure. I think you could have easily put like Nathan Eovaldi in this category. He's had a really good year, but one guy that I went with is Zach Eflin. Was a kind of under the radar, was an early signing, I think, in the free agency period this year. Was kind of a back into the rotation guy in Philly all these years. Was a StatCast baseball savant darling, and I think we all thought once he got with a team that could really bring out what they need to out of him, he would be really good. And he signed with the Rays, and the Rays have done Rays things with him. He's a little injured to start the year, but I mean, you're looking at a guy who 105 innings right now, and his ERA is 3.59. But when you look at the peripherals, an expected ERA of 3.19, a FIP of 3.13, and an xFIP of 3.16. And he's 105 innings, and in all of baseball so far in qualified pitchers, he's 10th in WAR.
Yeah, he's been incredible. One other guy, a couple guys I wanted to mention too, is the 3 main guys in the Twins rotation: Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, and Sonny Gray. All 3 of them are in the top 20 in WAR, and the Twins are in first place, and that's literally the only reason, because their offense has been horrible. The division is bad, but if it wasn't for those guys, I mean, the Twins would be 3rd or 4th in a bad division. So that I kind of want to shout them out too.
That when we get down to Cy Young voting, these guys are going to have a tough time.
Yeah.
Unless somebody distances themselves in the second half. I think we just listed 6 or 7 names that could realistically be the Cy Young this season in the American League. And we didn't even mention Garrett Cole.
Yeah, we didn't even mention him. So let's go ahead and jump over to the best pitcher of the National League. And Matt, who do you got for that?
So my guy I picked for National League's best pitcher is going to be somebody who is flown under the radar. I don't even think, listening to podcasts, watching, stuff on YouTube, or whatever. I don't think I've heard this guy's name mentioned one time, and it's Logan Webb. He has been awesome this year. He's pitched 133 innings. First off, he's a true workhorse. That leads to the majors in innings pitched, but at the same time, he's put up great numbers over those innings. A 3.11 ERA, 3.32 FIP, but a 2.89 xFIP. He's getting the ball on the ground over 60% of the time, and he's got over 9 strikeouts per 9 this year and under 2 walks per 9. So his strikeout rate's come up, his walk rate's gone down. He's getting the ball on the ground more than ever. He's pitching tons of innings. This guy is really, really good. He's underappreciated. Last year, a 2.90 ERA in 2022. 2021, a 3.03 ERA. This is his third year in a row of being awesome. So Logan Webb needs to get talked about more. He's pitched 7 innings tonight of 2-run ball. So, I mean, he continues to go further. I mean, he's an incredible pitcher. The Giants are in second place, and he's a big reason why. He's really the main stalwart in that rotation right now.
I'm going to jump on board with the exact opposite pitcher type in my guy, and I'm sticking actually with my Cy Young pick in the preseason. That's going to be Spencer Strider, Clemson legend, but Spencer Strider. We were worried about the durability. He's made every scheduled start so far this season, right? Thrown his 19 starts thus far. He's 11-3 if you care about win and loss, but he's also got the highest strikeout rate in baseball, sitting at a balmy 39%. He's also only walking 7.5% of batters. That translates to a 14 strikeouts per 9 and a 2.7 walks per 9. He's looking kind of like vintage Verlander at this point with the velocity, with the results. And the thing about Spencer Strider that Matt mentioned is that he does have that kind of propensity to lose the ball in the air a little bit. He's only got a 32% ground ball rate, right? So some fly balls can get down, some fly balls can bounce off the wall, get out at different parks, but for dominance for the modern baseball game, you want whiffs. Spencer Strider's going to give you whiffs, right? And he's proving that he can do it at a durable pace and do it without being wild and walking hitters. He's going to get to 200 strikeouts again this season, barring catastrophic injury of some kind, right? He's at 176 thus far in 110 innings. That kind of volume of strikeouts is extremely valuable and is going to be my best pitcher in the National League, because there's nobody in the National League or American League that's striking batters out like Spencer Strider is. Damian, who is your best pitcher in the NL?
So my best pitcher in the NL, we were mentioning with Corbin Carroll that the Diamondbacks need some pitching. Well, they have one good pitcher, and that's Zach Gallen. He's leading the NL in WAR right now at 3.7, 120 innings. He's been a real workhorse for them. 9.5 strikeouts per 9, walking under 2 per 9 there. The ERA of a 3.14 ERA, a 2.89 FIP. The expected numbers are a little bit higher, but he's been a guy who, last year he had I don't even know how long the scoreless streak was. It was close to 50 innings though, wasn't it? Somewhere right around there, if I'm remembering right.
It was a long time. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then this year he had another one that was 30-ish innings or something. When he's on a roll, he's really damn good, and the Diamondbacks have needed every single bit of what he's been able to give on the starting pitching side, because that rest of the rotation has had some question marks, and Gallen has stepped up and delivered so far this year.
Yeah, and two of those guys that we just talked about, Spencer Strider and Zach Gallen, they face each other on Thursday, so
that'll be a game to tune into.
Yeah, definitely.
If you like strikeouts.
Yeah,
there will be strikeouts.
There will be strikeouts.
Or the Braves will torch Zach Gallen, one of the two.
I think that's happened already this year, honestly.
Could be.
The Braves offense is really good.
I think they put up 6 against them in their last time they faced him. But
or if you want to see the biggest legs you've ever seen on a baseball field, just watch Spencer Strider pitch.
Yeah.
That man does not miss leg day for some reason. So let's go ahead and look at the relief pitchers in the AL. Dave or Matt, who do you have for the AL?
So in the AL, I thought it was a pretty easy pick. Felix Bautista has been absolutely unbelievable for the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, this guy is averaging 17.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's not really walking a ton of guys. I mean, he's walking a decent amount, but for a reliever, it's not bad. I mean, and he doesn't get hit real hard. Gets the ball on the ground a decent amount for somebody who has that many strikeouts. I mean, he's got a 102 ERA, a 158 FIP, and a 168 xFIP. He's already put up 2.1 WAR on the season, which for a reliever is absolutely insane to put up that much in a half a season. Like, Felix Bautista's been awesome. The Orioles starting pitching has been very mediocre this year, but their bullpen, the back end especially with him and then Yunior Cano being another guy back there, has been so good that they've been able to get away with the starting pitching not being great and still be able to prevent runs at a decent clip. So he's a big reason for Baltimore being at where they are. And, he's honestly had a little bit of a similar effect on Baltimore as what Edwin Diaz had on the Mets last year. So very, very good, very, very good pitcher, very good first half, and I don't expect it to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, I went with a recent tradee who is having a massive resurgence season. It's coming off the strength of getting on, TikTok and on Pitching Ninja the last couple of days, because Aroldis Chapman's gone over to the Rangers and started throwing 103 again. And then you look at his season numbers, both with the Royals and the Rangers, and he's striking out 16 batters per 9, right? He's got a 2.04 ERA, a 1.42 FIP, which is lower than that of Felix Bautista. And that's from, a guy who is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame as a closer, is one of the best to ever do it. And, he's getting back to vintage velocity, which is not something I thought was going to happen when it comes to Aroldis Chapman. He's back there on 99, 100, 102. If the Rangers accidentally picked up, vintage Aroldis Chapman, they're going to be a very tough out once it comes to the playoffs, because the Rangers are going to get aggressive and continue to try to buy going forward. And, having already picked up Aroldis Chapman where they can insert him kind of late into their bullpen is, I think it's already a really strong move. They've got Will Smith currently closing games, but they might want to think about letting Aroldis Chapman close out some of those tougher games too. I mean, they've got some real weapons back there.
Yeah, I want to mention on Aroldis Chapman that the Royals were the team that fixed him, which is hard for me to believe because they don't fix anybody. And of course, they traded him to the Rangers recently, and he's going to be important for them this year. But I think it's kind of crazy that they literally were the ones that fixed Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah, it was kind of, talking about Texas there, I was surprised to not see Barlow in that trade, but Aroldis Chapman's a rejuvenized Aroldis Chapman, and one of the most feared left-handers out there again. But the guy that I went with was another one that's kind of a little bit off the beaten path, but it's Matt Brash, guy who was a good prospect as a starter, but most people felt like he was going to have to be a bullpen arm eventually. Transitioned to the bullpen full-time this year for the Seattle Mariners. And if you look at the start of the season for him through June 1st, the ERA was 4.57, right? But a 181 FIP and a 2.24 xFIP. If you've looked since June 1st through yesterday, a 165 ERA, a 169 FIP, and a 277 xFIP. And you look at the season numbers there, 332 ERA, but a 312 xFIP, 176 FIP, and a 247 xFIP. Brash has turned into a very dominant relief pitcher, and some of the nastiest stuff you'll see, striking out over almost 16 batters per 9. Does have his issues with walks, almost 4 walks per 9. But, if you're coming in at the 1-2 inning mark and just letting it eat, the stuff that he has, a velocity, he gets it up to 99, 100 at times as well. Just absolutely disgusting. It's been good to see that him, take that step to being the full-time reliever this year and excel at it, because sometimes it takes those starters, a few years and reluctancy to kind of embrace the bullpen role, and he's done it very well for the Mariners so far. So why don't we go ahead and jump over to our best hitter?
Oh, we
So
gotta
Matt,
do the National League.
NL.
oh, National League. See, I don't know. I don't know
You were
what's going on
excited.
here.
It's okay.
I
It's
was.
all right.
I was. All
Damien's
right.
got a good hitter for the National League in the,
I
Yeah,
and he
do. I
wants to
just
get
want.
there. He's
I've got a
excited.
better one.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No.
I'll
I want to talk
decide.
about.
I'll
I
decide.
want to talk about Nick Madrigal. Um.
Third
All right.
baseman Nick Madrigal.
Yeah.
Uh.
Best hitter Nick Madrigal. Anyways, so let's go to National League relief pitchers. So Matt, who do you got for that one?
So my National League relief pitcher I went with is a guy who has been really good the last few years, but he hasn't. He's a closer, but he hadn't gotten a lot of save opportunities because of the team he plays for. But that's going to be David Bednar. He's been really, really good for the Pirates this year. In 37 innings, he has a 1.22 ERA. He's got 17 saves, which I mean, like that's like being the Pirates. I mean, it's that's pretty big number. And then he he's not a guy who is just blowing away hitters like some closers do. I mean, has a good strikeout rate, about 11 per 9, but he's not the most dominant guy, but he gets a lot of soft contact and he rarely ever walks anybody, which is really nice to have for a ninth inning, especially like if you have a 2-run lead or something. You never want to just put that first guy on base. So give him a chance. So he's he's having a great year. 177 FIP backs it up, almost 2 WAR. This is his 3rd year in a row of a sub-3 ERA, over a pretty good volume for a reliever. So David Bednar is a guy that I think is he could be an interesting trade chip. I don't think the Pirates are going to move him because they probably feel like they may just be like 1 or 2 years away from competing again with the farm system and a lot of the young guys they've brought up recently. But he, he's either going to be a closer for the future for them, or he's going to, be a closer for somebody really good this year. And I tell you one thing, I didn't never realize until I clicked on his page a minute ago that he was originally a Padre, and I bet they sure wish they didn't trade him. So.
Well, it's funny you should mention the Padres because the one problem the Padres have not had is at closer. Josh Hader's got a 1.03 ERA,
Yeah.
and I originally was going to take Tanner Scott here. He's been really good for the Marlins at kind of a long relief role in maybe that 7th, 8th inning. But upon realizing that Josh Hader's sitting on a 1.03 ERA, and 22 saves through this season is kind of what shifted my best reliever over. Hader's been really, really good. And, last year, there was a lot of talk about his struggles with the Padres once he came over, right? To the point that, he got moved out of the closer spot and there was a bunch of consternation about making the trade, and he's rebounded completely. He was in the All-Star game, just a really good performance this season. His strikeout rate is starting to decline a little bit, but it's still elite and one of the best in baseball. His walk rate's about what it's been, a little bit high, but obviously something you can live with for a guy who isn't getting hit very hard at all. The thing that he hasn't done is allow any home runs this season, and in my opinion, that's the most crucial aspect of a reliever because, one home run, allowing any runs at all is really not good when you're late in a game like that, especially in the 9th inning. Josh Hader's ability thus far through the season to prevent home runs has been extremely helpful for the Padres and keeping them from being even further down the order. And we'll talk about the rest of the team in a little bit, but at the very least, Josh Hader's been good and has kept the Padres in some games that, in front in some games that they otherwise might not have won. So, Damien, who was your best reliever?
Before I jump to mine, I wanted to say that this could be the 2nd year in a row where Josh Hader gets traded at the deadline. We could very seriously consider that since he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. But for mine, I went with kind of the easiest pick that you could here, and it's Alexis Diaz. Guy who at the beginning of the season when Edwin Diaz, his brother, went down for the Mets, most people were talking about, hey, Alexis Diaz could get traded there and take over the closer's role for him. Well, with the Reds breakout, Alexis Diaz has come back and done exactly what he did last year. But to even a better extent, he has 26 saves so far, a 1.99 ERA, a 2.89 expected ERA, and a 2.32 FIP. 1.8 WAR, striking out almost 14 batters per 9. The walks, He's walking over 4 per 9, so you kind of would want to see that be a little bit better. But, in Great American Ballpark, he's giving up less than a quarter of a homer per 9. Like, that's insane.
It's difficult.
For that ballpark and being a high velocity pitcher, touching upper 90s, not to give up homers there, it's insanely difficult. And the ability that he has to miss the bats there, Alexis Diaz has been a true breakout this year as a closer, one of the best closers in baseball, I think we could say. So he's my best reliever in the National League so far. All right, now we can jump to the best hitter.
Yes.
Yeah, but we got to start with the AL.
All right, so best NL hitter. So Matt, who do you have for the best AL hitter?
So, before we start, we're going to preface this by saying that Ohtani is not going to be a pick for us because it's obvious, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But the guy that I went ahead and picked for the AL's best hitter is Luis Robert. He actually is second I'll say best position player. He's second in WAR in the American League behind Shohei Ohtani. Luis Robert has been awesome this year. His profile is still kind of scary with the strikeouts and not walking, but he's hitting the ball hard, and he's got 27 home runs in 92 games. He's hit 276 with a 332 on base, a 575 slugging. That's for a 144 WRC plus. He also plays very, very good defense in center field that could be considered elite. And he's a great base runner too. He's only got 8 stolen bases, but he rarely gets thrown out on the bases and stuff. He's really good there. Got the speed. I know he's in the past dealt with some injuries, so he's probably not going to run a ton, but he's very, very good. And really the bright spot for the White Sox, because they've had a horrible season, and he's really the centerpiece to build around going forward. Or theoretically a guy that could fetch back like a top tier trade package if they decided to really blow it up. So, but Luis Robert's a very good player, and it's been fun to see him play this year. He's very exciting to watch.
So I went with a bit of an unorthodox approach, as I believe the best hitter is for each division is fairly straightforward and obvious. So I'm going with some league leaders and some stats that are maybe less important, but are going to help you be the best hitter and the best run producer in your lineup. So I'm going with Adolis Garcia for this, because Adolis Garcia currently has 80 RBI, and that would be leading all of Major League Baseball. We talked about him a bunch. We talked about him on the live stream last week. He's really been able to, kind of come into his own with, regards to having more of a hyper swing focused plate approach to where he can get to a lot of damage. And now he's looking at being a 40 home run hitter, a early 2000s level of RBI in this Texas lineup. He's the kind of run producer that a lot of teams are lacking badly right now. And, I look at Adolis Garcia, a kind of a cast off from the St. Louis Cardinals, and to where Texas has turned him into a superstar and starting the All-Star game. And I see the kind of hitter that I think has kind of been lost to time a little bit. The guy who, he makes contact, he gets the ball in play, and he does damage. And, he does damage when guys are on base, drives runs home. It's long forgotten. And I think you're going to easily make cases for other hitters, but I'm going to stick with my gut on this one and say that Adolis Garcia has been, at least one of the best hitters in the AL this season.
Yeah, I want to add on him. His walk rate is up to 9%, which is above average, which is kind of awesome for him. He's been that, like you mentioned, that super swing heavy guy. He reminded me like a center field version of Javi Baez for a while, and this guy's now walking. So, that's pretty big deal for him.
Yeah, he's cut his strikeout rate over the last 3 seasons and increased his walk rate, all while adding power, adding speed, adding, run production. He's just been a really good hitter for a long time, and he's getting better very clearly.
Yeah, he went from a guy who you were wondering if he was going to be able to crack the lineup to then being like a bottom of the order bat and will he be able to produce? And then now he's up to being a middle of the order bat on one of the best teams and best offenses in the league. So the rise for Adolis Garcia has been great to see. For mine, I went, I kind of took the best hitter approach here instead of best player. And I went with Yandy Diaz, a guy who is batting 322, a 406 on base, 512 slugging. 43 RBIs, but that's because he's mainly been the leadoff guy for the Tampa Bay Rays. Already matched or above his career high in homers, I want to say. And that's albeit in 79 games. He's missed some games due to a hip injury, and then I think he missed this last weekend while being on the paternity list. But as of hitters or players in general in the American League, he's 16th in WAR with 79 games, where pretty much everyone above him except Mike Trout has 10 plus more games than he does. Yandy Diaz is another one of those baseball savant, StatCast nerds, that his page just is bright red all the time. You knew that eventually with the Rays, he was going to figure out the launch angle aspect of it. And he's done that this year, and he's been very well. I think he's, where's he at in average right now? I think he's leading. Yeah, he's leading the American League in average, fifth in slugging, and first in on-base percentage. So leading in average and on-base and fifth in slugging for the American League. Yandy Diaz has been every bit of the best hitter in the American League outside of a guy we'll talk about here in a little bit. But why don't we jump over to the National League side? So, Matt, who do you got for the National League?
Well, I think I'm going to pick Ronald Acuna Jr. He's been by far the best player in the National League this year. He's put up 5.2 WAR on the season, which is insane. He's had 23 home runs and 43 stolen bases, which is on pace for like a 40-70 season, which has never been done before, obviously. He's hitting .333 with a .414 on base and a .593 slugging for a 169 WRC+. He's cut his strikeout rate. Last year, his strikeout rate was at 23.6%. Year before, it was at 23.6%. So he's, these last 2 years, in 2021 really being a major breakout type year where in, just half a season he put up 4.4 WAR. Last year coming off the injury wasn't great, but he's cut it in half. He's at a 11.6% strikeout rate this year, which is insane. And I mean, his expected numbers on the season or let's say that he's been unlucky. Like, that's how good Ronald Acuna Jr. has been this year. Like, his expected slugging percentage is .657. I mean, his expected WOBA, he's underperforming his expected WOBA by 30 points. And I don't understand how a guy can be this freaking good at the plate and just as an outfielder. Like, he's really, really good. And he's going to win the MVP if he doesn't get hurt, which, with Acuna's history, you just pray that he doesn't. But he's been awesome, and I've been very lucky to get to watch him play for my team for sure.
I'm also going to pick a player from Matt's team. But I would agree with you. Acuna's been incredible. The one thing you didn't mention, he's struck out exactly as much as he's walked so far too.
Yeah.
And then that's from a guy who used to strike out a ton to where it was a problem. I'm going to take a guy who strikes out a ton, but I'm going to take the National League leader in home runs. Again, I'm looking for that kind of the hitter side of things, kind of like Damian said with Yandy Diaz. I'm going to go with Matt Olson, who, just a few years ago got traded to Atlanta for what is looking like a pack of peanuts, right? I mean, Matt Olson's been every bit the Freddie Freeman replacement he's been traded to be. This season, sitting on a 258 batting average, a 360 on base percentage, and a 573 slugging with league leading home run and RBIs. He obviously won't get a triple crown and lead the league in batting average, but to nail down at least at the halfway point 2 of the 3 triple crown stats is pretty massively impressive in my opinion. And he's also scoring a ton of runs because he walks a lot and he gets on base a ton. So I'm going with Matt Olson. I think your case for Acuna is rock solid, and I don't think there's anybody getting around that. But in order to dare to be different, I'm going to take a different Brave. Going to take Matt Olson. He's been really good, and I'm a big fan of his. So I think he's the dude for me. Who you got, Damian? And I bet you'll be a homer.
Listen, there's no homer bias here. I did not pick Nick Madrigal. Okay.
Fair.
I went with a guy who, Matt picked the National League WAR or leader in WAR in Ronald Acuna Jr. David, you picked the National League leader in homers in Matt Olson. The guy I picked is second in homers and second in WAR, and that's Mookie Betts. This might be the best Mookie Betts we've seen since his MVP year in Boston where he hit 346 and 32 homers that year in a 10.5 WAR. This year he's hitting 285, 385 on base, 587 slugging, a 4.5 WAR already, 27 homers in 90 games, which the power input, his season high in his career has been 32 before. Like I said, this might be the best we've seen of Mookie Betts ever. But the thing really for him this year has been the versatility. He is playing more second base than he's ever played in his career, and he's playing some shortstop this year, which is insane to say that like the best defensive right fielder in the game is jumping and playing second base and shortstop. But what I think really blown me away is the production difference in the games that he's played. In right field, he's batting 243 this year with a where to go. I lost it.
Unbelievable.
Here it is. He's batting 243 with a 355 on base percentage and a 517 slugging for an OPS of 874. Right at 136 WRC plus.
That's extremely good.
It's extremely good. If you look at what he's done playing second base this year, 367, 458 on base, 700 slugging for an 1158 OPS and a 208 WRC plus.
It's really good.
Yeah, like the difference of what he's been able to do coming into the infield and like making his production be even more insane than it was in right field. Which, he's, like I said, he's one of the best right fielders that we've seen play. He's one of the best defensive right fielders in the game. So still, won the Gold Glove last year as well. Like the production value that he's been able to bring, with, at the plate, but also the defensive versatility coming in to play second base and some shortstop this year. He's really, I've always been a big Mookie Betts fan, obviously, as a Dodger fan, but he's blown me away this year with what he's been able to do. So my best hitter / player this year is Mookie Betts in the National League. So we have another category of award that we want to go to, and it's called the Shohei Ohtani Award. So Matt, who do you have for this?
Well, I think I'm going to pick Shohei Ohtani for this one. He's been remarkable this year. He already had been the last few years, but what he's done this year at the plate has just been unbelievable. I mean, he's got 35 home runs already, which he's on pace to hit. I think he's on pace to get close to 60. And
I think 59, yeah.
59, yeah. I mean, he could definitely get there. I mean, I've kind of at a loss for words as to how good he is. Like, he's got a 306 average, a 391 on base percentage, and a 677 slugging percentage. That's a 184 WRC plus. That's like peak Mike Trout as a hitter. And he's at a 4.6 WAR at the plate, and that's while his defensive positional value being -10 because of the DH thing. So got 11 stolen bases too, which is awesome. He's done that while being a pitcher, and while on the mound it hasn't been quite what it was last year, he's still been pretty good. A 3.50 ERA, 105 innings. He hasn't, he's pitched every 6th day or 7th day. A lot of times they give him 6 days rest. And he's still been really, really good. His stuff is unbelievable. He's walking more guys this year, which has kind of been the only thing that hadn't been great. But he's unbelievable. Like, he's put up over 6 WAR already, which is, we're almost at a loss for words at how good this guy is.
Yeah, so for the Shohei Ohtani Award, after much deliberation, I'm going to pick Shohei Ohtani. Look, Shohei Ohtani's going to get paid a record amount of money. It's going to be absolutely deserved. In fact, it's probably going to be an underpay. And the fact of the matter is, we talked about the best hitters, the best pitchers. Shohei could very well win both awards for us. The fact that one player can do that in a single, season is mind-blowing. Just the fact that Shohei's even able to pitch well, while being the second most valuable offensive player in baseball is, we can't overstate it enough. Shohei Ohtani's doing things right now that have never been done in the history of baseball. And baseball is the oldest, a big four American sport. It's been around since the 1800s. We've seen two-way players. We've seen guys, be able to hit and pitch. We have never seen it in this degree at this like skill level of the game of Major League Baseball, and that is absolutely ridiculous. Can he do it going forward? Who knows? But we have to give the midseason shout out for Shohei Ohtani to Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, so for the Shohei Ohtani award, I decided to go with Rich Hill because watching him bat is I'm just kidding. No, it's obviously we're talking about Ohtani here, but uh, we always knew that this talent was there, and I think we saw it a couple years ago, and then last year was an insane year, but what he's been able to do this year at the plate is just stupid astronomical compared to his career. Like, he was a guy who, 270, 280 type hitter. This year, batting 306, a 184 WRC plus. Like, his career high was 151, and that was in the 2021 season where he hit 46 homers that year. Well, he's going to blow that out of the water this year. He's cut his strikeout rate from that year down almost 6%, and brought that batting average up. That year he batted 257. That's 306 this year. Like, it's just insane of what he's been able to do there. The pitching side, it's not been as great. He's been dealing with some blister issues this year, which is something you always worry about with pitchers there. But I believe it was I think it was before June, he was just on pace for his numbers from what he had last year as a pitcher. But he's a guy who's fundamentally coming in and changing the way the game is played. They made a new rule because of Shohei Ohtani, with the DH and the pitcher and that. And now you start seeing people, during the draft this last week, how many players did we see get drafted as two-way players? Like, I feel like it's been a lot more than what we had seen in the recent 10 years before that, because everyone's looking for what could be the next Shohei Ohtani. Not that you're ever going to find it. It's going to be incredibly rare, but everyone's going to start looking for that guy now. I think you're going to see a lot more players try it. Not that they're going to succeed, but this guy has fundamentally changed the way that teams are looking at the game of baseball. And that's very rare that you could say that anyone ever comes in and does that.
Yeah, I want to point out one other thing on Shohei Ohtani real quick. In 2021, before the DH was put in both leagues, Shohei Ohtani did play the field a little bit. He played 7 innings in right field in 2021 because when they played in a National League game, if they pulled him out off the mound, they would lose his bat if they put him just on, if they just took him out of the game. So they put him in right field. He had a 12 UZR per 150, which obviously 7 innings, but it's still kind of funny. Like, he's probably a good fielder too.
Oh, absolutely, he'd be a great fielder. I would assume with how fast he is.
Yep.
Yeah, the speed and arm out there would be insane.
Yeah.
But so let's go ahead and jump over and let's just kind of look at where the obviously we do the standings breakdowns all the time, but we just kind of wanted to highlight some of the looking back at our preseason predictions and teams that we missed on and that. So we'll just quickly gloss over these, but the National League East, if you were to look at it, we all, I believe, had the Mets finishing second in this division, and they are, what are they, fourth right now?
Yep.
Yeah, they're fourth there. And then we all had the Marlins at fourth, and they are second in this division. So, obviously we missed a couple there. The Mets have been downright terrible. They've kind of meted themselves. It's the meme there, but the Marlins been a big jump for them as well.
Yeah, looking at those two teams, I think before the season we didn't believe the Mets were going to be this bad. We thought they were going to be good. Obviously, we picked them second, but we did think there was some variance there just because of the two old pitchers that they have in Verlander and Scherzer, and at their age, you just never know when that fall off might come. And while they were both elite still last year, you knew there was some form of, if these guys don't pitch at the same levels they were accustomed to seeing, this team might not be all that good. That's kind of been the case. It's kind of been worst case scenario for them from that standpoint with those two guys. And then, of course, the Marlins, their pitching staff's been awesome. They won tons of one-run games, and I mean, they're in position to maybe make the playoffs. I know that they've kind of struggled coming out of the break, so they might be falling off a little bit, but they've definitely had a good season. It's been fun to watch them, play well this year.
Yeah, we noted that the Marlins had good pitching and that the ability for the Marlins to compete was always going to hinge on whether or not that offense could find any sort of rhythm. And they made some free agent signings, and obviously the trade for Luis Arias has really catapulted it. The question now at this point is, who do the Marlins buy? Because they're in position to get that wild card spot. They absolutely can do it. They're going to need to make some moves, though. They're starting to fall back to the pack a little bit. It's been a really good season for them so far, but Kim Ng has to be aggressive here because they're in position with a lot of starting pitching depth, especially at the upper minors, to be able to make some bit moves for some big players, I think. And they could be in play for a lot of interesting pieces, but that's an offense that has a lot of holes. And, I think, they want to improve at third base with Gene Segura there, that they want to improve in the outfield and get some power there because Jorge Soler can't do it all by himself. So, I'm real interested to see what the Marlins do here. As for the Mets, their underachieving is the funniest thing that could possibly have happened here, right? Like this is a team that is $400 million payroll, a team that has tried to buy their way to the success of other teams that have kind of set back and developed and are able to be methodical with their moves, like the Atlanta Braves. Essentially, the Mets have tried to just overspend the Braves and be more aggressive in that sense. And it is showing that you can't just buy wins. You have to be very flexible with the way you acquire things via player assets, via trades, via the draft, via development, and then free agency. The Mets have gone after just free agency, but they've also spent a lot of money to maintain a team that they had last year. And, it is the same team they had last year, right? I mean, with Justin Verlander instead of Jacob deGrom and, a hurt Edwin Diaz, but really that's not going to change anything. This Mets team is basically the same, but it's just lacking that oomph and that desire. And it's a team that's very clearly very happy and well fed. They're all very well paid and they're performing like they don't need to go out there and win because they're already pretty well paid.
Yeah. So looking at the Marlins real quick, you mentioned that they had enough pitching that we figured that they could, succeed with. Well, the reigning Cy Young Award winner, Sandy Alcantara, has a 4.64 ERA this year. They signed Johnny Cueto to be, a big-time piece of that rotation as well, that 4 or 5 starter. They've got exactly 4 innings from him this year. Their superstar player, who is on the cover of MLB The Show. Now, I know that was a big thing brought up about that this year, but played 45 games this year, and they're still in this position. With the stuff that they've dealt with Jazz Chisholm Jr. being down, Johnny Cueto being down, Sandy Alcantara not playing up to what he was last year and really struggling this year, like to still be in this spot where they're, tied for the last wild card spot right now. They're second in this division. They're an above 500 team by 10 games. Like it's really good to see the Marlins finally being a good baseball team again. We kind of got that glimmer of hope in the 2020 here. And then they kind of let you down ever since then. But, like you mentioned, it's time for the Marlins to be aggressive this deadline season coming up, and for Kim Ng to really do something to help push this team into playoff contention, because I think a lot of people will want to see the Marlins back into the playoffs and see what that ballpark could look like if in a playoff atmosphere. So jumping over to the National League Central now, we want to talk about the Cardinals and the Reds. I think we each had the Cardinals either first or second. Matt and I had them winning the division. David had them second. And then the Reds, we all had bottom of this division. We all crapped on them, saying they're one of the worst teams that we've ever seen. The owners need to sell. This is terrible. And they are now 50-45, 2.5 games out of a wild card spot.
I will say with the Reds that before the season, I did not say they were one of the worst teams I've ever seen. I said I thought their pitching staff with the top end of their rotation could actually be decent, which was kind of the opposite of what's actually happened. Of course, a lot of that's due to injuries with Lodolo and Green being out for most of the season, or parts of the season at least. But yeah, I mean that's been crazy. The Reds, every single rookie they've brought up has just exploded, which has been really fun to watch. Ellie De La Cruz has been really good. Matt McClain's been better. I don't think anybody's talking about him. And Spencer Steer is on what they've done this season, not necessarily of what they're going to do in the future, or what they're how electric they are aspect. Spencer Steer's been their best one. So nobody's really talking about him. But the Reds' offense has been solid. They've kind of struggled coming out of the break. I think they're still time away from being really good, but they're kind of like the Orioles were last year, as far as I believe. But I think they got the pieces to really buy in the offseason and turn into a really good team next year. If you look at the Cardinals, I mean, we kind of said coming in that we thought they were going to win the division by default because their offense was really good, which their offense has been really good, but that we were worried about the pitching staff. And the pitching staff has been not only like out of the worst case scenarios for their pitching, like it's every single guy that they were relying on that we were like, I don't know. You would think at least one of them would be good this year, and none of them have. They've all been bad. Jordan Montgomery hasn't been as good as he was last year for them. I mean, Miles Mikolas has been way, way, way off what he's been in the past. And then you've got we kind of figured that, Wainwright wasn't going to be very good, and Steven Matz wasn't going to be good, and Flaherty's been injured a lot, and walks tons of guys, and he's had some flashes this year of being, better than he has been, but he hadn't been great. So, I mean, just that pitching staff's been so bad, and that team just kind of fell apart. I mean, the management, the manager and Marmol, and then the upper management, it's just been kind of in a mess there. And I mean, the Cardinals really need to sell at the deadline. And honestly, with the age of Goldschmidt and Arenado and kind of the outlook of their pitching staff, they almost need to go into a rebuild, which I don't think the Cardinals have ever done before.
I think there's a legitimate possibility you could see Nolan on the move at the deadline potentially.
I think his
contract's too big.
So I don't think so. I think somebody will take it if the Cardinals are willing to.
Yeah, I don't think they will be. I think that's a team that's resetting for 2024. I'm not getting my hopes up for any sort of massive sell-off.
I do not think they're going to blow it up. I think they might trade Jack Flaherty because they're out of it this year, and they might trade Jordan Hicks or something.
Montgomery.
Montgomery maybe, but they're
an
not going
to.
Yeah,
one of those two.
They could trade an outfielder if they get a big league piece back, but
Logan Gilbert.
Well, hey, we were just talking about the Marlins. I mean, they could trade one of those corner outfielders at the Marlins for one of their, close to the big leagues pitchers.
Yeah,
that makes some sense, and I can't wait for that pitcher to be amazing because, of course. But I'm happy to be the least wrong about the Cardinals, I guess, because I had them second. But that's a team that I just never trusted, and I think the things I didn't trust are the things that got magnified here, right? They swapped from Yadier Molina to Wilson Contreras. Pitching staff, craps the bed. So that doesn't surprise me. There's all kinds of drama, which I was not expecting, right? The managers was just really not good there. The culture they've created is just not good. It's not what you expect from the Cardinals to have a bunch of drama. They're in the news for a bunch of clubhouse problems, guys not hustling on the field and stuff, just weird things that you wouldn't expect from that team in years past. As for the Reds, I'm thrilled that they're doing well for everyone except for Cubs fans, right? I mean, you're seeing what trust in the young players is able to do, right? Christian Encarnacion Strand just came up this week. That's another guy who's maybe a little underappreciated, but he's a big masher, and he's going to be able to help them going forward. And they can stack their lineup with guys like Matt McClain, Steer, Ellie, and TJ Friedel and Jake Fraley have been really good somehow. And Jonathan India hasn't even been that good. Joey Votto's back. He's hitting pretty well. I mean, it's this is a team that is not – it's surprising that they're doing this well, but you could see the path that they would have had to take to get here, and it's exactly what this is, which is trust the young guys, have just everything break your way in terms of player promotions and them excelling, and they're getting it done. So good on the Reds for trusting the young guys. That's all I got to say about them.
Yeah, and they are doing it without. I mean, they've lost Hunter Green in the middle of June, right as the time they went on this run. Lodolo's been out for a good chunk of the year with a broken leg. Like, they've done it with, their top two pitchers coming into the year. Well, Ben Lively, like Andrew Abbott.
Like, I mean, the rotation they put together is like, those are the two guys who have been their best pitchers. I mean,
it's been it's been insane what they've actually been able to do. But looking over at the NL West, really the big miss here is we had the Padres. I think we all had them winning the division. Most of the baseball world had them winning the division, and they are fourth in this division, 10.5 games back of the lead, but I mean, not even close to third place here, 8 games back in the wild card. So it's just a real big disappointment for the San Diego Padres this year.
Yeah. You just feel like the Padres are going to go on a run at some point. Like, I felt like it forever, and they just haven't. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, the talent on the team, I mean, Xander Bogaerts and Manny Machado haven't been as good as they have been in the past so far this year, which for Xander Bogaerts, it's very scary because they just signed him to a gigantic contract, and a lot of the issues that he's having were kind of things you were starting to see last year. And I think Manny Machado will end up rebounding, but
he has. He's
been really good this month. So, but like, I mean, Fernando Tatis Jr. coming back, he's been awesome. Like, they have no depth. I mean, they have 3 players who have performed really well this year in Kim and or Ha-Sung Kim, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Juan Soto, and then Machado lately has been better, but like the rest of their lineup, I mean, Bogarts has been okay. Like, you look at their, I mean, they just don't have any depth. Jake Cronenworth's been really bad. Like, their DH situation's been Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz, who's like 45.
They
like,
DFA'd him.
They DFA'd recently too, yeah. And then like their catching situation has been awful until Gary Sanchez was signed off the street. He's actually been not quite as bad, but I mean, it's just kind of this team just never gelled. And we'll see. I mean, they're beating the Blue Jays 6-1 in the top of the 8th. They were right in it with the Phillies this weekend, and were had a chance to take at least 2 or 3 of those games against a pretty good Phillies team that's currently the wild card team, and they just choked 2 games away. I mean, it's kind of the way the Padres have been all year. So, we'll see. Maybe they go on a run. We'll talk about next week the trade deadline, and the Padres could end up being sellers. But I mean, like, is this the week they kind of take off? Because they could win. They could win 4 games in a row, and then they're sitting there right at 500, and they feel like they got a chance to do something. So. It's a tough situation going forward too, because they have a lot of money on the books from guys who won't be this good for very long, like 2 or 3 more years of like Machado being good and Bogarts being good, and I mean, and of course Juan Soto's a free agent after next year, so we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, and for the Padres this week, you mentioned it's going to be very vital. They play Toronto, but then they go and play Detroit at home away, and then they play Pittsburgh. And then going into, they play Texas the weekend after that before Colorado for the deadline. So you have to look at this weekend going into the beginning of next week between Detroit and Pittsburgh, and you have to think the Padres have to say, we have to win 5 of those 6.
Yep.
We have to have the shot there. But Darvish hasn't been great this year, but Musgrove's been really good since he got back. Blake Snell's been insane. He's been really, really good. I don't know if he's figured out the walk issues all the way, but
he hasn't. But he's been good regardless.
Supposedly it's Gary Sanchez catching. He likes throwing to Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, I know. I was going to pull that up. Like, in his 10 starts before Gary Sanchez, he had a 5.04 ERA, and the 9 starts since, he's had a 0.51 ERA. Snell has.
Yeah.
Like, even if the Padres, I think Snell's going to get flipped at the deadline. I feel like the Padres are kind of committed to having to just reset a little bit through this year. mean, you have Soto. He's not going to go anywhere. You have Tatis. You have Machado. But like, I could see Snell, who's like on the last year of his deal. I could see Hader, who's on the last year of his deal. Like, try and get something back, and then that frees up a little bit of money that you can go kind of sign players with and sign more depth this year. But it's not been great for the Padres.
I will say, Joe Musgrove threw 6 more shutout innings today. He's been really good. I have 1 run innings, but he's been super good.
He's been really good.
They need to stop. By the way, they need to stop extending 38-year-old pitchers for like 6 years too. Like I still don't understand that one.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and stay out west and jump over to the American League West, where the Texas Rangers are leading this division at 56-39. And then looking at our preseason predictions of it, Matt had the Rangers in 4th. I had the Rangers in 3rd, and then David had the Rangers 4th.
Oops.
So them leading this division now. They've had a great season. I mean, they're almost 20 games over 500. And they're doing this without the big signing of Jacob deGrom, who barely pitched for them. The question marks in that rotation, they've seemed to, figure something out at least. And we talked about Adolis Garcia and obviously Marcus Semien, Corey Seager. Josh Jung's breakout this year has been a big part of that as well. But Texas Rangers have been playing good baseball this year.
You forgot Jonah Heim there, all-star starter catcher too for the AL. Yeah. He's been really good. The thing that I think I didn't, factor into the Rangers, I factored in that deGrom would probably get hurt, right? That was kind of my thought, was either the Rangers will be really good or Jacob deGrom will be hurt and they'll be really bad. The pitching staff around deGrom has picked up the slack so tremendously that I don't think anybody could have possibly anticipated this, right? Nate Eovaldi's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. He was definitely on our radar for AL best pitcher. And then John Gray's been really good. Dane Dunning has been really solid in terms of just getting guys out. Their bullpen's been really good, right? This is a team that has gone from, being a afterthought in terms of pitching and to a point where they desperately need help, to a team that can go out, be really aggressive with upper minors, players, and go out and get a pitcher at the deadline here. We'll talk about who next week, but I would put the Rangers on getting one of the best pitchers at the deadline here, and try and fill out that rotation behind Eovaldi and get, being able to move Gray and Dunning back in the rotation a little bit so that they're not starting game 2 of the playoff series, and you've got a really reliable, really strong number 2. That makes the Rangers a really formidable team, and I think a lot of teams are going to be willing to pair up, relievers with starters, right? You think the White Sox, the Cubs, there's some other teams that are definitely, the Cardinals, even we talked about Flaherty and Hicks. They're going to pair relievers with starters to get better prospects back. The Rangers are going to be in buy mode. They're going to get even better, right? I think that they've put themselves in such a good position by having overachieving offense and really strong defensive, adjustments and players. And Corey Seager and Marcus Semien have been good. Jung's been so good. I'm definitely pleased with this, but I'm really excited to see what they do in the next couple of weeks, because they think they're really going to shake up the market.
Yeah, you mentioned not only has their Jacob deGrom been out, but Corey Seager missed like a month too. So, I mean, if you had told me that, I would have thought that they wouldn't have made it this far. But like we said in the offseason, this was a very tough team to judge because they added a lot of pitchers that have had injury questions, but have also been very good at times. Like they added, obviously, Evaldi's been a hit for them. Like Andrew Heaney, I don't think he's really done very well. Like, Martin Perez, another guy they brought back, and he's been okay for them. And then deGrom's been hurt. But, I mean, Evaldi's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, so that's kind of been a hit. And then Dane Dunning's kind of taken the step to being a mid-rotation guy, which he kind of was a pretty good prospect that you thought might be able to do that. But their lineup's really good, and they play great defense, like you mentioned. And their bullpen's been solid. They're going to be in attack mode at the deadline, and I think they're a very good team. I mean, looking at some of the metrics, I mean, they've been close to – they haven't been that far off the Braves in some of the metrics for position players, which is pretty crazy because the Braves have been really good.
Yeah, so the last one we wanted to highlight is jumping over to the American League East now, where we kind of missed on almost this whole division. We all had the Blue Jays winning the division, I believe. We did. We all had the Blue Jays winning, the Yankees in second, and the Rays in third. The only real change we had was Matt had the Orioles in last, and then David and I had them in fourth. Which you looking at the division standings, Tampa Bay's 60-37 leading it. Baltimore's 57-36, only a game back, and then Toronto's 53-41, 5.5 back, with New York bringing up the bottom of the division, 9 games back.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to believe the Yankees are in last place in a division like ever. But I mean, I
Did
think
you see Aaron Boone's comments today too? He was on the baseball talk with like John Boy and his people.
The talking Yankees show.
Yeah, and he would say like they were saying like we need some upgrades here, like we need some offense, like we need some, and he's like, yeah, we got one coming back pretty soon, and they're like, what, Judge? And he's like, yeah, and they were both like, well, you need more than that, and he's like, well, we got Nestor coming back. Both of the guys were like, Nestor's not that good, and Boone was like, what?
Yeah,
like he's like, yeah, I think we got Nestor, Loizaga, and like Judge coming back. I think we got some pretty good people. Like basically dismissing that they needed upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a hard question to ask a manager, just because they're, he's gonna say the guys he has on his team now, he's gonna try to make, say we believe in our guys type things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, the Yankees, we knew coming in like there was a chance that offense wasn't gonna be good. It was Judge, and then an aging and often injured Giancarlo Stanton. And then Anthony Rizzo, who's had his back issues and is just not like a superstar anymore. Like he's still a solid player. And then you got an aging Josh Donaldson. That was the offensive guys you were counting on. I mean, you were starting a rookie at shortstop. Behind the plate, you're not looking good offensively. And then it's like, if Judge gets hurt, what happens? Because he's been hurt a lot in the past. I mean, not the last 2 years, but before that, I mean, he missed a lot of time. So he's still kind of a guy you think of as a little bit risky injury-wise coming in. And I mean, it's been a problem for them. I mean, they've had their pitching injuries too with Nestor Cortez, and I mean, they overperformed a lot of guys last year, and I don't know. I mean, it's just a flawed roster, and it seems like they've tried to build through. They've made some really dumb decisions, honestly. But either way, the Rays, they've been really good. I think if you asked us in this division who could be a shock, the surprise team that wins it, I think we probably would have all said the Rays, just because they do this. Like they do this every single year. We doubt the Rays, and then all of a sudden they're good.
I think we highlighted that in the episode.
Yeah,
I was like, we all picked them to be third, and I think we all said they're going to win this division now because we did that.
Yeah, I mean, and then the Orioles, I'm honestly surprised the Orioles are this good, because the pitching staff is not great in the starting rotation. I mean, their ace is Kyle Gibson. So, I mean, Tyler Wells has been really good for them in the rotation, but they really need to add some at the deadline. Grayson Rodriguez has been up and down a little bit between AAA and the big leagues, and hasn't really taken off. I think that was kind of if the Orioles go this year, all the position players have to really perform. They have to have a great offense, and then Grayson Rodriguez has to really come up and have an immediate impact, and he hasn't. But the Orioles are still right there in second place, just one game back. So looking like pretty much a playoff lock, and they should be buying pitching at the deadline. They need I think they need 2 starters. You could make an argument they need, they could use a third one. But, I mean, I think out of Tyler Wells and maybe Bradish and Gibson, they could probably muster up a third guy. But the bullpen's been good for them, and the lineup's been so good that, the Orioles have just been awesome. So the Red Sox have been a little bit surprising for a lot of people too, even though they're still in fourth. I mean, just the fact that they haven't been like bad is kind of, for some people. I mean,
man, I wonder if like the Orioles and Cardinals could line up on like a Jordan Montgomery and Jack Flaherty trade, like kind of get 2 for 1 there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Orioles have so many prospects in the upper minors that are probably blocked at this point that. Yeah. And they're going to have a 40-man crunch. So you're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
The Orioles are definitely a team to watch next week.
Yeah, they could be one of the most aggressive teams out there.
Obi Mayo.
Sure. He's
Yeah.
definitely one to watch.
guy,
So
yep.
would Jordan Westberg, Connor
yeah.
Norby.
I don't know about
just a-
Westbrook because he's at the big league
Kierstad,
level,
yep.
but yeah,
Yeah, but
I'll tell
Westbrook
you,
just
Jackson
got called up,
Holiday
I
won't be
think.
moved, but he's
Yep.
still been good.
yeah.
I think
Westbrook's
Westbrook could be a
short for
team
them.
that I think he could be a team that or a player that teams will want to target because he's at that major league level.
He's got
Maybe
exactly.
like the Cardinals.
He's ready for it. Yeah, like that. That's kind of like what you would think. Like they are ready for somebody to come in and play second base, shortstop there. Right away. So.
Yep.
But
I will say, I don't. I will say I don't know that I don't feel bad about the prediction being weird in this division because this division is all at least 5 games over 500. Right? The Yankees, for all their struggles, are a 5 games over 500 team. They in any other season in any other division, that's a team that's looking very strong to make the playoffs. And you have teams that are at 500 in the the AL Central, like the Twins. They're currently in the playoff spot, right? So the Yankees just have the misfortune of being in one of the toughest divisions ever. Same for the Blue Jays, right? That's still a talented team. The Yankees still a talented team. The Red Sox. This is kind of a crapshoot. This was going to be a tough one to call, and I think all 5 of these teams are going to be buyers come next in the next couple of weeks. It's going to get really interesting because somebody's got to finish last in this division.
Yeah. I mean, right now with losing to the Angels again, they might be the Yankees finishing last.
Yeah, their offense has been pretty dreadful, and you're absolutely right that Aaron Boone's protecting his guys there, but they need some assistance. Josh Donaldson also just went down, so one of their he hasn't been that productive, but he's been a source of power for them, and now he's out too. So
yeah, if you're looking at Baltimore, Toronto, and Boston over their last 10, they've all been 8-2. Like this division, like. Obviously, Tampa has been 3-7. Yankees have been 3-7. Baltimore's going to lose again tonight, but like this division is very, very tight, and they are going to be playing each other very, very tough through the end of the season. But any last little things that we want to wrap up on before we head out?
I mean, this is a very important week for the Angels, the Padres, and maybe the Mariners. Like, if you win 4 or 5 games this week, you might buy. If you lose 4 or 5 games this week, you're going to sell. So there's a few teams still right on the cusp that we don't really know what they're going to do, and that's going to be big going into the deadline here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and to echo that, the Cubs I think have gone to the sell point, right? I think the Mets have reached the sell point. I think the White Sox have reached the sell point. So you're seeing, the teams are starting to line up in their respective trade target spots. And we're going to start seeing some teams we're going to see rumors start flying. We've already seen a few of them, but next week is going to be, I think, a really good, kind of speculative show. And then we'll be able to kind of do some reaction and stuff the week after that on exactly what's going down at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, trade deadline's 2 weeks from today, so we'll be able to have all of the moves and stuff from that point. But the thing I'd really say is watch for the team that's going to get aggressive and make the early move. We always see that somebody makes that move like 2 weeks before. I mean, we saw the Rangers with Chapman, but we usually see a deal within this first week or so. With 2 weeks before the deadline, somebody jumps early and makes a deal. Just trying to jump the market a little bit and jump other teams getting aggressive and potential injuries on that. So be on the lookout for that this week. But I think that's going to wrap it up for the episode 134 of the Batflip Podcast. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys back next week.